I've got the brand new DJI Mic 3 right here, and on launch day, I probably watched 10 or 12 videos, and there is something that every single one of them left out. A huge part of using this microphone no one talked about. So today, we're gonna go over it. Hey everyone, I'm Colt Caparoon. So DJI did not send this to me. They are not gonna see this video. Maybe they will eventually. This is not a sponsored video, not sponsored by anyone. Sweetwater did send this to me because I messaged them and asked them to send it to me because I needed a microphone like this. But this is not a sponsored video. There are affiliate links in the description down below for this and everything else that I use. So go check that out. Get a little bit of commission, helps me out a little bit, but this is not a sponsored video. I'm gonna be brutally honest about this. So we're gonna fly through the specs and the features of this real quick in case you are unfamiliar with it. And then we are going to compare it to my original DJI Mic 1 that I've had since it came out, and I purchased this with my own money. We're gonna see how these two stack up against each other. And then I'm gonna show you how to get the absolute most out of this, the thing that no one else is talking about. If you like this sort of content, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing, liking, commenting, all of that means a huge amount to a new channel like this one, so thank you very much. So just very quickly to run through the specs, this DJI Mic 3 configuration has 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, 1 charging case. It comes with 4 dead cats, comes with the cable, and a couple additional adapters and a USB-C cable. The microphones are omnidirectional. The frequency response is listed at 20 Hertz to 20K. The signal to noise ratio is 72 dB, which is not phenomenal, but it's not awful. We have 32 gigabytes of storage per transmitter, and it supports 32-bit float recording modes. It's supposed to go 400 meters in distance when it's a line of sight. The transmitter batteries are supposed to last for 10 hours. The receiver battery is supposed to last for 8 hours, and you're supposed to be able to get 28 hours of total usage when you are using the case to charge in between. Now, this has built-in time code, but let's be honest, I doubt anyone buying this is going to use time code. We're all either going to record directly on the microphones and sync in post, or we're going to put the receiver right on a camera and then just transmit an audio right into the camera. I think that's 99% of people, that's how we're going to use this. It has Bluetooth 5.4, and it is dual band, switching between 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. It has 2 levels of active noise cancellation, which actually works fairly decent. It has different voice presets, so you can have normal, rich, or bright. It has low cut options, and that pretty much rounds up the specs for the DJI Mic 3. There are 100,000 videos that came out on launch day when DJI sent this to people. If you want full breakdowns and specs, go check out those videos. Today, I want to focus more on how it compares to the original DJI mic and getting the most out of this and on the thing that no one's talking about. Now, as a bird's eye view between these new microphones, the new DJI Mic 3 has 4 times the storage internally on each transmitter. It has nearly double the transmitter length. It has double the battery life. It has 32 bits float as opposed to just 24-bit recording. It's about half of the weight. We do have a jack for an actual lavalier mic on the original DJI mic, and we do not on the Mic 3. But 2 of my favorite things about the DJI Mic 3 versus the original is the fact that all of the stuff fits inside the case. The cable, the magnets, and the dead cats. So you don't lose them like I did with my DJI Mic 1. I have ordered I don't know how many sets of replacement dead cats to go on these microphones, and I just keep losing them somehow. Having them go right in the case, that is going to be a lifesaver, and the fact that it comes with 4 of them, 2 black and 2 gray, is pretty cool. The other thing that is a gigantic difference to me is on the new Mic 3, the cold shoe attachment is directly attached to the receiver. It doesn't come off. You can't lose it like I've done with my DJI Mic 1. On the DJI Mic 1, it was super flimsy. It was super weird to put on. It would fall off all the time, and you had to take it off in order to put the whole thing back in the case, and now I've lost it. It's gone. So that's the main reason why I have reached out and asked Sweetwater to send me this, is because I have now lost enough things with the DJI mic that it's starting to get hard to use. So let's quickly discuss, is it worth the upgrade? In my opinion, short answer, if you don't need an actual lavalier microphone where you don't need a wired one to pin under your shirt going down to use this as just a transmitter, then yes, it's worth the upgrade. These don't sound quite as good, the internal microphones and the transmitters. The old DJI mic sounds ever so slightly more natural and ever so slightly thicker, but in practical use, they're the same. All of the extra stuff that you get with this, the more storage, the 32-bit float, the longer transmitter length, the fact it all fits in the case, to me, all of it makes this a no-brainer purchase. Now, if you're using one of the newer versions of the DJI mic, that it might get a little bit tougher, but if you're still on the original like I was, it is a no-brainer purchase to upgrade. And again, I'll put links in the description down below. Now, a couple other things that I think are really cool about the DJI Mic 3 is the fact that the clip rotates, and there are these little divots that clip it into place to keep the clip in one of 90-degree rotations. I think the bad part about this is the fact that it's magnetic. So if you're running, for instance, if you've got this on your hat and you're running, the microphone could very easily just fall off of the clip and you would have no idea and no way to find it. So cool design, love that it's configurable and rotatable, but also be careful. I also really like how the clip just comes off and then you can use the magnet right to the microphone, to the transmitter, because that's a much more low profile. I mean, this is so tiny. Like this is tiny, tiny. I don't know that I would have preferred it any other way. The DJI Mic 1 has the magnets right on top of the clip, significantly less lower profile. That is much, much bulkier, in addition to the whole microphone just being twice the size and double the weight, which makes your shirt sag when you're using the magnet or anything. This is definitely a much more cumbersome thing. So, what is the thing that no one is talking about? That's how to make this sound good. See, all of these microphones, really all lavalier microphones in general, but especially all of these clip-on microphones that have a built-in microphone, none of them sound good. Absolutely none of them. Now, you're never gonna hear a sponsor video tell you that because they're trying to sell it to you. Now, I'm not saying that they all sound the same. I'm not saying that they all sound like crap. What I'm saying is if you want good sounding audio out of this, you have to do stuff to it. You don't just plug this in and get incredible audio. Like what you're hearing right now. This is completely processed audio with a $1,000+ shotgun microphone, and if I turn all of it off, this is what it sounds like without all of the processing. So even though we have an incredible microphone through an incredible preamp into an incredible camera, if you don't process it and do a bunch of stuff to it, it doesn't sound that great. So let's jump over into the editing room and I'm gonna show you how to make these sound incredible, but not just the DJI Mic 3, any microphone, absolutely any of them. So let's jump into Final Cut Pro and take a listen to what this mic actually sounds like. Here we go. Little clap right there. Now, when people hold them like this, so now we're listening to the DJI mic. Now you can tell this is real quiet. So I probably need to turn the gain up on that a little bit, but the first thing we're gonna do, since we're gonna put an EQ on it anyway, we are just gonna go ahead and go down. I love these FabFilter plugins, all of them. I'll put links to all of them in the description down below. So we're just gonna grab the Pro Q3, the standard EQ, and we're gonna drag it on here. And since our volume is really low on this, the first thing we're gonna do is just turn up the output of the EQ. So we're just gonna go here and let's crank it up 10 dB. When people hold them like this, let's go a little bit more. When people hold them like this, so now we're listening. Okay, so you can see how we peaked here. So we wanna make sure we don't peak. So let's pull it down like there. When people hold them like this, so now we're listening to the DJ. Good enough for now. So there's a couple things that I want to make sure that I do here. The first and foremost is I want to make sure it sounds good overall. Now there's a couple things to me that make sure that something sounds good. The first thing is the top end. I like a little bit of sizzly top end. So we're just gonna push in a high shelf here, somewhere around 10K. Let's go about 5 dB. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna push in some 2K because this is like the intelligibility of the vocal, of the voice is like this, like 1500 Hertz to like 3K is like the intelligibility. So we're gonna do that. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a low pass here by double clicking and we're gonna pull this up to somewhere around 100 Hertz. Actually, let's go down about 70 somewhere. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna boost somewhere around 100 Hertz. Like 100 Hertz is like that radio announcer voice. That's what gives it a lot of the thickness. We're also gonna change this to a 36 dB per octave. That makes this much more square here. And then let's listen to the difference. Little clap right there. Now, when people hold them like this, so now we're listening to the DJI Mic 3. Okay, so that's what it sounds like with. Here's what it sounds like without. This is completely unprocessed for right now. I'll show you guys what. Shocking difference, obviously big volume difference. So let's go ahead and put it back in. This is completely unprocessed for right now. I'll show you guys what it's like when we're processing it. There's a lot of people. Now already, that's a shocking difference, like a shocking difference in sound quality. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna put the FabFilter Pro MB. We're just gonna drag it right on here. Now I've made presets out of all of this for myself and then saved it as an entire effects preset. But the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna set up 4 bands, and we want a top band, an upper mid-range band, a low band. Sometimes it takes a second here, especially when I'm screen recording, because it's processing the audio as we do this. Now I want this low band centered somewhere around that like 100, 150 hertz range, and then we're gonna go ahead and push this up just a little bit. And then I want these upper bands, I want this band centered somewhere around the like 200 to 400 hertz range because that's gonna control the muddiness and the boxiness of the voice. And then I want the top band to always start at the lowest end of the sibilance. And that's usually somewhere around 6K. So somewhere around 6,000 hertz. And then we have the upper mid band. Now, without even listening, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the attack and the release the fastest. I'm gonna turn the knee to the hardest, and we're gonna do the exact same thing on every band here. We don't even need to listen. We're just gonna do this. And this is making the compressor not really sound like a compressor. We don't wanna hear the compression. We just want it to level everything out. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna listen. And what I want to happen is I want each one of these bands to be compressing at some point in time. I don't want all of them compressing all the time. I want them to float back and forth between these different bands. So here we go. To the DJI Mic 3. This is completely unprocessed for right now. I'll show you guys. So you can see this upper mid-range band is compressing almost the entire time. So we wanna raise this threshold so that way it only compresses during the upper mid nasally parts of my voice. To the DJI Mic 3. This is completely unprocessed for right now. I'll show you guys what it's like when we're processing it. There's a lot of people that like to hold these out in front of them. So that line right there, you can see how it switches back and forth very much so between the upper mid and the low mid band, depending on what my voice is doing. There's a lot of people that like to hold these out in front of them. We're gonna raise the threshold on the lower mid band as well. There's a lot of people that like to hold these out in front of them. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. You get something like that. Now you can play around with this to your heart's content. You can adjust this to be whatever character you want, but basically what we're doing is this top band is controlling all of our sibilants, and then the upper mid band is controlling all of our nasaliness, any sort of boxiness, upper mid range things that we don't like. Our lower mid band is controlling the mud and the boxiness, and our low band is controlling the low end, just smoothing everything out. Let's listen one more time. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. You get it a little bit direct. Now, if you want more compression in each one of these, you can literally just grab this range and drag it down here so that way it will allow it to compress more in those exact settings. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. That's pretty ripping right there. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to put a limiter on here. Let's drag the Pro L2 right on. And basically what we want this to do is just chop the peaks off, just the very top peaks. And we don't want any clipping, so we're gonna drag the output down here to somewhere around, a little bit around like -1 dB. Let's see what this sounds like. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does. So we're gonna push this up, this threshold up, until we start clipping off the loudest parts of the vocal. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. You get it a little bit direct line of sight to the microphone from your mouth. Perfect. So we're only cutting 3-4 dB off of the very loudest parts of the vocal. And this is really going to bring the level of the vocal up. So that way, when you're watching it on your phone, on a TV, on a computer, that voice is in your face. It's just present. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these. Now, the last thing that we're gonna do is we have our meter open over here, and we want this somewhere closer to 0. We're at like -7, -8 right now. So we're just gonna turn the volume of this track up a couple dB. So that way we get closer to 0 over here. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. You get it a little bit direct line of sight to the. That is pretty insane sounding for a otherwise pretty mediocre sounding clip-on microphone. I think that looks silly, but it definitely does sound the best for these type of microphones. You get it a little bit direct line of sight to the microphone from your mouth. Now I would tweak these settings based on where the microphone actually is, but here's what it sounds like on the chest. And this is what it sounds like in about the right position, somewhere about the top of the sternum. That's the best place to put any sort of lavalier microphone. And if you really want to turn your influencer gym bro thing all the way up, then you could just put it on your hat, like everyone seems to be doing these days. And this is what it sounds like on your hat. You're gonna get a little bit more tinny sound, a little bit more hollow sound. It's not gonna be nearly as thick, because definitely on the chest, right in the center of the chest is by far the best place to put it. So you can really hear the difference in those when you hold it in front of your mouth versus when you clip it to your chest versus when you clip it to your mouth or clip it to your hat. And you would just kind of tweak the EQ to adjust for these things. But this is the setup for how you get the absolute most out of these microphones, and it is a shocking difference, and no one's talking about it, because it's what needs to happen to every single one of these type of microphones if you actually want pro audio. Don't forget there's links in the description down below for this microphone and everything else that I use. Thank you so much to Sweetwater for sending this to me. Again, not sponsored, but I very much appreciate the help. If you like this sort of content, don't forget to subscribe and drop me a comment, give me a thumbs up, share with your friends. It means a whole bunch to me. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.